I think I'm like good enough to like detach myself from it a little bit. The guys have been playing well all of today without me being around, so I think it's more a case of, for us, if I'm thinking of like it narratively, it is just like we've made like good roster moves, I think, recently, like kind of scary changes when you have a team that is made up of people who have been playing a while and have known each other for a long period, that making any roster moves can feel like it breaks a good vibe that you have about the team. But I think everybody's been really good sports about it, to be able to bring in players like Salty, Mirrorman to a lesser extent, and then River recently. And I think if we win this game, we would be at least confirmed top 3, which I can't remember the last time that we had like a top 3, top 2 finish, which I think is a really good like testament to like the future of the team, right? So fair. I think when you look at the top 4 at the moment with Hydra Nation, Llama Lords, TF2 Boomers, and Revival, I do think the Revival is probably the easier opponent out of the teams to be facing up against. I'd rather them than Llama Lords or Hydra Nation, that's for sure. So
yeah, I can imagine.
We have like a more open, easier bracket than the upper bracket. So I think it's just about, we have a good opportunity to do work here, and it's making sure that we can actually get it over the line, because we've shown that we have the ability to, because we beat these guys earlier, but the scrims have been a bit 50-50 so far against Revival, so it should be really interesting to watch, I think, especially from this seat.
Okay, so folks at home or on co-streams, to put things into perspective, this is not the first rodeo for Ryan either. He has a long history of coaching different teams in different games as well, but from my time of stalking you, I don't think you've ever casted the team that you're coaching actively, right?
No,
this is a first.
No. I don't think I did it for Odd One Out in Game Changers, so yeah,
maybe a co-stream.
Yeah, maybe like co-stream usually. So yeah, it's a little bit of
that
a
doesn't count.
A different
no,
one.
it doesn't, does it?
But yeah, it's a unique one. I think looking at the veto though, so I think taking out Yamato is smart, because Yamato is just crazy strong at the moment, and especially I think if you don't really have a Yamato player, or that Yamato player would prefer to be on something else, I think it's a good choice. Then banning out Mirage, weaker now after the patch, but still strong enough to consider taking this out. Paradox priority naturally. Viscous, Wraith, 2 good picks, but having Kelvin and Abrams, we've kind of done what Alchemical Flask did, I think, in the first game, where it's like very utility team support, and then it's just filling out those final slots of where that damage is coming from, because Revival having Infernus and Wraith, it's a lot of damage that could be potentially put down.
So in these scrims, you've said they are about 50-50. What has been the most difficult characters to face up against?
I'll have to double check. I think I'd have to like, because it was sort of like a flurry, I suppose, especially when we're practicing against Llama Lords as well, which I think were a little bit more dominant against us. I don't know if it was down to any particular players, really. I think they always enjoy playing Viscous, so especially with the state that Viscous is in, I imagine that might be a bit of a pain in the ass to deal with. But them having Ivy as well, like there's a lot of characters that can just be kind of like sleeper picks that can have a lot of impact when it doesn't necessarily look like it in the scoreboard. I think Viscous and Ivy are 2 of those for sure, so we have like a very tanky squad. I think we played something similar in the last game against Melee Creeps that we just won. Revival picking up Shiv. Again, Shiv feeling like pretty strong in the right hands. I think it is a question of like how we want to like bring this all together. So trying to think of like what characters people are down on.
Is this a team comp TF2 Boomers normally run, like in past tournaments or in scrims?
Not necessarily. I think there's like favorites for players for sure. Like 7 could be picked up here for River if we want to just get more damage. But actually it's going to be McGinnis. So I think Boyd's going to be on the McGinnis, and I think River would be on Kelvin, because Kelvin topped the damage in the last game against Melee Creeps with just Spirit like grenade damage. So you don't really have those typical carry characters like we'd have Benji playing, for example. So it's a bit more of like a unique playstyle. But I think there's like people are on their comfort picks pretty much, like their main characters people are on. So so it should feel relatively comfortable. It's just whether you have the damage or the catch to like face off against an Infernus and a Wraith in the right hands.
I mean, Pavlos, what could Revival pick as their last character?
Hard shot here. I don't know. I'm not sure what you could really go for. Obviously, on the TF2 Boomers side, you've got a lot of engage, a lot of mobility, but also a lot of standalone power. So, you know, I wonder if you want to kind of match that yet. Dynamo going in there, you know, wanting to frontline, having an extra engage tool, an extra catalyst for those team fights, which TF2 Boomers have a lot of. It's a good choice. Overall, I think this is a strong pick from Revival. We did talk a lot of TF2 Boomers. I don't blame. We've got the coach of them, so it's a great opportunity to kind of go through that. But a cool thing about Revival, a bit of lore behind them as well, is that they also derive from Bottom Barrel, which is where Llama Lords derive from, where we watch. So it's a kind of a split of the two. We've got a few players jumping in here. So, you know, I'm new to the scene, right? I'm new to the scene. I'm figuring out all these teams, so it's also cool to see where these teams are also dispersing. But yeah, this is looking like an interesting one overall. And yeah, I think both teams have got pretty damn solid matchups, really.
It's a melting pot of players at this point in the game. And I'm going to ask you probably the toughest question of the entire tournament, Ryan. Is this a good composition for TF2? And is your team that you coach going to win this?
I hope so. I think this is a really good veto for us just because, like I said, everybody's kind of like Miraman would be on the Paradox, Salty would be on Abrams, Defty's on Lash, his most played character, Tankman and Warden. Like, people are going to be on what they prefer to be playing as of right now. The only concern is just naturally you look at this comp pre-patch and you go, there's no damage here. Like, there's no Infernus, there's no Wraith, there's no Seven, there's no... like, just who's going to be the one that's going to be like a position one in Dota, right? But I think here, Warden does a hell of a lot of damage now with like his gun scaling up. Lash is really strong as well with how like his ground slam works. And like I mentioned with River's Kelvin, huge amount of damage done when you go down that spirit route. It is a question of whether Revival start off rightly. I think the one thing that we've sort of struggled with, like, it's not as if I'm leaking anything. Defi streams all of the scrims anyway, but like, going out of laning phase, we tend to be behind a little bit, but that usually means that you have the urn prioritizing for you, and so it's quite easy to catapult yourself back into the game and maybe go on there. So we're kind of used to being behind after the laning phase, and we've got comfortable being able to like come back into a game, which was something that if we were behind before, we'd never be able to catch up, no matter what. It was always like climbing uphill, but now we're a lot better at being comfortable with that and being able to like swing it back. Revival, they're a really good team, really good players, but they're still an early team, so we have the advantage of just being able to play with each other a little bit longer.
Oh no, Pavlos, it seems like Ryan's defined a bit of a weak spot potentially for Revival to take advantage of.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the coordination aspect is always going to be a part of it. So, yeah, I wonder if it will be exploited. Obviously, having Ryan here, it's a bit of a caster's curse, you know? You coach this team that you're going to be casting. So, I don't know, man. If there's any game that TF2 Boomers would lose, it would be not fitting for Ryan, but I think fitting for the narratives. This could be it. But, yeah, no, obviously TF2 Boomers on a good streak here. Obviously, one of the top contenders of this tournament, probably considered in the most prominent three. You know, obviously they don't have the prestige of Hydra Nation, but you know, obviously they can do a lot of damage, and if they keep up with this upper bracket run, you know, this is the perfect match for them to do it against Revival right here.
I mean, this is kind of a do or die to get into that top echelon, right? If you can't get past Revival, yeah, it's already going to be brutal in the lower bracket, but this would just kind of define TF2 Boomers as just another Deadlock team.
Yeah, I think that's valid as well, especially with the Deadlock League tournament where sort of a similar thing happened of just, we had a pretty like decent side of the bracket and ended up losing to a team called Pass, which were good, really good, like some good players like that were like Eternus playing on that squad, but just again, because we'd been together however long and we should have been more comfortable, we kind of let it get out of hand. So with it being a best of one, light trolling is not allowed. Sometimes we might like let that happen a little bit and drop a map, but in a best of 3 we'd be able to come back into it. But here we don't have that safety net, so it feels like everybody's like warmed up and ready to go. And I think after a hefty week of double like blocks of scrims for us as well, so like 4 hours of scrims all this week, people are like warmed up, that's for sure. And I'm personally very impressed and proud with the players have been able to just commit to this whole week of playing. So they should be warmed up at this point. That's the hope.
And of course, folks back home, we are just waiting on a few more players to get into the lobby, and I'm glad you're enjoying our mini podcast right now. Do have to bring up another fan favorite podcast question though. How much is Ryan allowed to maul in this matchup? What's the threshold?
Ooh, am I answering that one, or is
It
Ryan
has
going
to
to
be.
be answering? Yeah.
Anyone else would be biased.
True. I'm not biased.
I mean, you know, that might be true.
Yeah.
Chat, you can tell us.
Cass
But also
is
you.
biased? What? Never.
We're never biased.
Never. What are you on about? Ryan, how much you're allowed to mold? I don't know. I'll give when the final patron run happens, and if TF2 Boomers are on the receiving end of it, that's when molding is allowed. That's when I'll permit molding from you. If anything before that happens, like, oh come on, we talked about this.
That's
then
what
I'll be
I'm saying.
that I'll be yeah. If anything like that happens, I'm just gonna have to be like, right, compose yourself. There's no favoritism here.
Yeah.
Feel free to criticize it. Feel free to criticize.
It'd be interesting.
You're the best one to do it.
Yeah, because I think like so much of it is watching with like how people communicate and what they communicate and what the decision is. So naturally not being able to see that, it does really like I sort of speaking it in a very meta term of being a caster in like Valorant, and like you just see the game from one specific lens that you're not really like a fly on the wall and you're not really seeing it from their perspective. Like,
Sure.
it can be really difficult when you're so used to watching it. When you see what both teams are able to do, it really does like influence how you view the game naturally, and it's very hard for you to go, well, this team only has this much information to work with, so naturally they're not able to work that out. And I guess that's the case in any game, right? That's not just Deadlock, that's MOBAs, that's tac shooters and stuff. So it's going to be weird for me to watch it from this perspective where I can see what the opponents are doing and then try to gain context as to what the call was potentially. If there was a call
together, Ryan. It'll be an experience. We'll live together.
That's true. This gives a unique opportunity, but we'll see like a war general, essentially, like Napoleon in the server watching things, anti-stratting and casting at the same exact time.
If Napoleon was... Who's a good narrator? I don't know. If Napoleon had a bird's eye view and had the voice of Morgan Freeman, I don't know.
He wishes.
He wishes. That's basically right now.
All right. Well, I do believe we did hear from our other voice of God that we are just about ready to get into game. Very curious to see how this goes. I'm excited for TF2 Boomers. I think their tankiness is going to be very good for them going into things. But Revival have that prestige on the individual level. They have that experience in a lot of accolades so far in the early game of Deadlock to prove that they could also make it to the top.
It's definitely the chase here, right? It's definitely a matchup that could be a pretty good one, and that's what we're here for. TF2 Boomers against Revival. I love that. I love both the icons for both of the teams. The barrel on the one end, and the meme on the other. Good stuff.
I made the icon. I did the TF2
Oh, you made
Boomers.
it?
Yeah,
that makes it even better. That makes it amazing. Awesome. Let's get things started, though, as we jump into our third game of today's tournament, Deadlock Core Tournament number 4, as we are keeping things flowing on this upper bracket.
So far, it's just favorite picks so far for TF2 Boomers. I looked in Defy's chat whilst there's a pause. Looked in Defy's chat to see if they were like ready to go. And somebody in the YouTube comments put the no DPS team versus the DPS team. And it's a pretty apt approach when you're looking at the draft. Like, it is not really easy to see where that damage is going to come from over on the side of TF2 Boomers. But you've got stuff like Gunlash, which is very strong at the moment. Boink also can go more into damage. We saw that already with Gun McGinnis being a pretty apt thing for the Merc team earlier on. River, Spirit, Kelvin is strong. Tankman, the damage that now Warden is able to do. And all it takes is just a couple of good moments. Salty can definitely have those on Abrams, and Mirrorman is setting up those positions. So really, it's just if the team play can work out for the Boomers, for Revival, you've got Rundus that has a good amount of experience playing on the sort of tanky characters, especially like Shiv. Brave that was on the Tracklock team. Alju that was also on Bottom Barrels is one of the main players to be looking at when it comes to a carry role. It's just how it all comes together for Revival here.
Okay. I see that. I see that. Yeah, not many characters were left unaffected by the changes. A lot of them influenced. You can see that the purple lane is very much taking a lot of damage from both ends, right? Both of the players living on the edge with those exchanges, playing things close. The Wraith nearly going down there. Quite a quick one. Quite a close one. I wonder what you think here. I'm just going to talk to you about the paradoxical swap. Obviously, that was one of the influenced ults during the patches. What do you feel about it going a little bit quicker, right? Because on the one end, there's less of an opportunity to shoot at the player that it's being swapped, but also it brings that person into your backline a lot quicker. So, how do you feel about that one?
Yeah, I think it's like more of a nerf than a buff, because like you sort of mentioned, because the whole process of being switched is faster, gives you less time, I suppose, to like actually catch people out. Speaking of which, Mirrorman's been caught out over on the green lane. River's doing her best to try and stay alive, tried to be pressured up, but when you're up against a Viscous and an Ivy, the kudzu bombs and the splatters, it's a lot of damage that can be just thrown down and burst down in a phase. And if you're playing right under that Guardian that might also be shooting you, a lot of space is to be given up, and now lane shoved in the opposite direction. It even seems like the Ivy's going to try and take the camp over on the opponent's side of the map.
Yeah, so that's going to be an early casualty. Obviously, Dynamo struggling a little bit in that early game, with Shiv trying to pick up the pieces on that end of the scale.
He's gone over to join on the yellow side. That means it definitely needs to be a little bit more careful in 1 versus 2, but it does look like the Paradox and the Kelvin are aware of it, shoved up the lane a good amount.
Wow.
Now trying to contest it.
Yeah, and he might be in trouble himself, down to just 180 health points. That was a great wall, good coordination play. Lovely stuff. Oh, and as well, Grave will have to drop as well. So a quick 1-2 there, off the back of the wall, and you just go all in. Throw everything you've got at them, and that's 2 kills to nothing, allowing that green lane to quickly fall in favor of TF2 Boomers.
The Ivy knows that there's 3 players over on yellow, so they're able to use their opponent's shop. They're even going to take the basement camp. Like, this is so rough from TF2 Boomers to just be losing out on this, but it's such a good spot from the Ivy to realize that this is basically free to open. It's just whether they get punished or not on the way out.
That is true.
I think Kelvin knows.
Ah, he might do. I think he might have heard things breaking beneath him, so he will try and follow up. But yeah, can't really catch up to that, especially when you've got a Wraith available. We'll just spend that time picking up the level 1 camp next to his lane.
Saying that, though, it is a bit of a soul lead building. 4k souls in 4 minutes. It's kind of weird where you're looking at like these individual fights happening, and it does look that Revival are sort of just winning out and taking a lot of the space. But here, like, River's doing a lot. Graves died again to Salty, who's creating a lot of space. And there is a lot of aggression pushed up here. McGinnis, Boink, sort of just taking the script from what Naked's been able to do. And McGinnis being able to sort of flitter between 2 different lanes and support over on the right-hand side of the map. And then you've got River being able to do that on Kelvin on the left-hand side. Means that the reactions to both sides of the map with these lanes, pretty comfortable positions to be in.
I think McGinnis and Abrams is proving to be quite an unstoppable combo, right? Being able to throw in a wall and paired up with a shoulder charge, which, by the way, after the change is a little bit easier to use and a lot more easier to work with. Oh, look at this, trying to avoid the damage early on, but I think there's no avoiding the Paradox here. Oh, there might just be a parry in the making, but no. It does seem that the Paradox will be a bit more patient with it, and we'll end up with a pick.
Yeah, a bit of a mental fight, but Mirrorman did well to not just panic hard melee to get that final hit in. It's just a case of like who's got the mental resilience. Defi picking up the first Guardian over on the left-hand side. River there helping out, and a good amount of souls available on River. All the people that's farmed up, it is the Kelvin, and seems to be the way that it's been played as a carry. Shiv can do a lot of damage. I don't think the ultimate, it was available, so the Assassinate was potentially there, but just the healing that McGinnis can do needs to back up just in case, because that Assassinate is going to come in, but it doesn't get the kill.
Oh, it eventually picks up the McGinnis, but it's not without the trade. Salty able to get Rundus down. But overall, that's going to favor TF2 Boomers, because now they've got real estate to push through over to the second lane. They've already picked up the Guardian on the complete left. So not too much of an issue from the TF2 Boomers as Revival are trying to find advantages elsewhere. The biggest advantage they've got is towards the solo lane earlier with Warden up against the Infernus. Infernus getting the better end of things.
Yeah, so far it is just Tankman that's sort of behind on souls. Has a bit of support from the McGinnis now, though. But it does mean that Salty is alone up against the Shiv and the Dynamo. One of which might go over to try and support over on that purple lane. And Defi already taking the Guardian, trying to just freeze the waves, making sure that they don't get pushed up too much, and really just making sure that this Ivy doesn't get the farm for free. Because they're also a target that's going to invest heavily into spirit damage in a similar way to the Kelvin.
Yeah, slowly but surely, you want to make sure you're gaining these advantages. The Singularity drops, but I don't think there's much reinforcements here for Tankman. Instead, he'll be dropping. He is. Last stand enabled. It will keep him alive for a little longer, but not enough. A little bit maybe scary for the Dynamo there, but without any issues. Abrams shoulder charge in, and we'll just be using that to find an optimal position to take down the Dynamo. We'll be able to find some extra damage, but it's just a ring around the rosy, really. So have to concede that fight. Yeah, that was a quick piece to be collected here, Fire Revival, putting them right back in the game.
Rotations here, though. Not only the Warden coming back after respawning, but the Lash is here too. Leaping all the way in. The Firepath is going to get the Infernus out to safety. But it was kind of like 2 1 versus 2s happening. You also have Boink that was dying towards the central part of the map. Ivy being able to take the first Guardian for Revival means that objectives and souls are still relatively close, but the lead taken for Revival for, I think, the first time so far this map.
Yeah, maybe in the previous patch you might have wanted to go for that 3v2 dive there, but I think currently that's a bit too risky, as the turret will be targeting you a lot quicker. But they might be going it for a third time in a row, and it just proves how strong the wall is, keeping the player back. Sure, the ship goes in, tries to go for the killing blow, and indeed succeeds with it. That's the pickup, and the turnaround is there. Revival completely turning things right back in their favor. Stun up. Here comes the Death Slam. Will it do much? Able to be avoided. Oh, they're so low. Here comes the cube, and it comes right on time to give the advantage to Revival. No players drop on their end, and they come away with 2 kills.
Yeah, Rundus is just so hard to kill on the Shiv. Has the locket as well to heal himself up, but it was a really good cube that comes in to help him survive. And just for Boink, a little bit slow on using the, like, Spectre, the heal, to be able to keep his team alive. He puts it down just as he dies, and there's so much burst damage. Really good work from the Dynamo as well to teleport out to avoid the Lash ultimate. Now a 5k soul lead, ever building, and you're getting towards the urn being available here.
Oh,
and a rough and tumble fight here.
Dynamo's really struggling to stay alive here, but might just be able to get out of dodge. No, the chase is still on. Stun up, being chased after. There's still another fight happening on the same lane, which is why we need to turn our attention towards it. Viscous able to get the pickup in the end against Deathy. But that allows Revival to stay in charge of the third lane. But the chase is still on.
Great wall.
And McGinnis is just so good with these walls.
Just keeping them backed off a little bit. It does mean that objectives-wise, slightly ahead for Revival, have that first flex slot. Good amount of money for the McGinnis to be able to pick up a couple of items here. Right now, just in time, and a good fight actually for Mirrorman to be taken. Has that support from River, and Fickle Frog not only misses out on just getting the movement buff on the bridge, but also goes down.
Yeah, it's a tough one that. You know it's going to be contested. Everybody knows that 10-minute mark is gathered. And yeah, now you have to turn your attention towards the Solon, right? That's the next big objective, which is why you start to see the majority of players from both sides leaning towards that side of the map.
At this point, souls are even, so it would be a neutral drop-off. And neither team really that comfortable with it. Priority for TF2 Boomers is going to be probably just getting that extra Guardian. Make sure that they can get a flex slot. Even though for the majority of players, it's not really needed as of yet. But if they can find an opening, they can start to snowball. And that's a really good swap onto the powered Dynamo.
It is indeed, but again, not much time to retaliate there and not enough players to deliver damage, so it's just an interruption for now as Riverman looks to cross to try and deny this urn being dropped. But the Ivy is just assisting, makes the deal so much easier, so much faster. The issue is for TF2 Boomers here is can they get enough players here? And I think they've already decided to concede this. It's not worth it, and they just decide to spend 3 players on the other side of the map to try and push for other objectives.
Yeah, I think this is a good shout, though. You also have the Guardian on that side, which is probably going to be taken at this point, so really not much of an earn lead, especially at this point on. Big ultimate dedicated as well with the Ivy, so at this point, you don't have to worry about them doing the airdrop in on top of you, but you might need to worry about the fact that they've teleported in behind.
Oh, yeah, and that could be a quick collapse because that's 4 players looking to move into that position where Wraith is already standing. The question is, can they get there on time? They've definitely got the utility gap close. Here comes a concussive combustion, and that's exactly what will concuss 3 players in a row. Shoulder charge, looking to see if it can do any more damage, but the damage has already been done. Revival, looking to break through. Quick to collapse on TF2 Boomers' location, and they're just still going for the chase. They've already got plenty of kills. Sure, there's a player to be changed over, but is that really enough? I don't think it's going to be. A bit too risky placement there from TF2 Boomers. They didn't account for the TP, and that is going to be the demise for this moment in time.
It was just very quick. You've got the goo ball coming in at the same time as the combustion. Absolute sideswipe on a lane that I think TF2 Boomers assumed was completely free, right? Because they just took the Guardian in that direction. Tried to not be too obvious with taking the Walker up on that side. Does mean that they're slightly ahead with objectives, but really not by much. Ultimate's good, actually, from Defi to get the kill onto Grave, and so stuff has been adjusted nicely. That could have been a disaster when it comes to, like, not mid-bosses as such, but more objectives being taken. And Ship needs to be careful. River's really high up when it comes to the soul farm. We've already seen him do quite a lot of damage on this character. Something that we typically see as a support, being used very differently from River, and I think that's maybe catching Revival out a little bit.
Might just be, even after losing that fight, still a close game. Still pretty damn good on the objective side of things here for TF2 Boomers. Keeping things even. And still about a minute and a half away from the bus picking up on the bridges, so it could be a bit of a quiet time. Instead, no. I think there might be a capture here. McGinnis a bit too far forwards, and Grave still has a singularity available if it is required, but I think he'll try to use that. He'll hold on to that, and he'll try to get the kill without it. It's a free piece without any retaliation, really.
Yeah, I think Boink at this point is 1 and 5, just keeps getting caught out. Pretty much alone, too. Bit of a split push happening from Defi that's trying to push up and take this Walker on the left-hand side. A bit of a contest here. But everybody's sort of tentatively fighting around this Walker over on the green lane. It looks like people are turning around to try and deal with Defi. And if he's not careful, he could get picked off.
Also something, though. TF2 Boomers really good at creating problems around the map. My screen is frozen. Not
Mine
quite
too.
sure if that's the case for the rest of the stream or the game itself. Uh-oh. Yep. Maybe the game crashed. Uh-oh. Whoopsie. Unlucky. Yeah, I think that gives us time, though, to talk about the status of the game, right? Because I feel like on the one end, you've got Revival that's been really good with getting picks, but you've got on the other end, even though TF2 Boomers are on the receiving end of that, they keep on creating problems around the map to keep the soul differential pretty even.
Yeah, I think it's just how much people are getting picked off, really. I'm just watching the player streams now to sort of keep up with what's going on. But it is just like how much people are going to get picked off realistically, just one at a time, just having people like just go down in these fights.
Yeah, fair enough. Has the game been paused? Do you know? Is that?
I don't think
probably,
so.
Right? No. Okay. Oh, well, it's still probably going on then. Unless there's a delay timer on it, because there might be. Oh, we're back in. Didn't take too long. Hey, and it looks like it was slightly paused. As everybody readies up and back in it again. Nice little Walker pickup, but it won't be without retaliation here with a concussive combustion. Solar Slam.
Brave.
That's a lot of damage done by the Infernus here. So much damage, and the ticking down from the burning keeps it going. He's being chased by a card. That's going to be the end of Salty here. Yeah, there's no way he's going to survive this, barely having enough life on him.
Oh my god.
He was down to 2 digits, and he was even chased after the telekinesis. How does he even get away?
By the skin
That
of his
is
teeth as well. Maybe
ridiculous.
like the damage from telekinesis was also nerfed from his previous patch as well. So
True.
maybe that's just that change in himself has kept him alive. Soul's even though it really does kind of feel like Revival are just winning a lot of these fights, and TF2 Boomers are trickling down some of these kills. Gun buff on Infernus though is scary for XD.
Oh, it is.
Might be farmed up in a potential position, and right now, a lot of split pushing, just the one walker that's been taken over on the side of TF2 Boomers, but at least it is one more than what Revival have at the moment. Feels that objective-wise, TF2 Boomers are ahead, but kill-wise, pretty much been all Revival.
Oh, we might have a pickup here. Singularity paired up with a ton of punches. And somehow able to get out of the problem there, as there is reinforcements arriving from both sides of the spectrum of the city. Still though, with Rundus dropping, with TF2 Boomers collapsing to the back line, it's caused Revival to drop back here, disengage, because that fight wasn't favoring them.
No, not at all.
Oh,
Lashalt's
we
going to
might have
be
another
used, and
pickup.
it's a slam on at least. Alju goes down. Some really nice picks in the end. If it can result in taking another walk, that'd be another good flex slot. But there is the urn available. It might be enough to just be able to take that space. And actually, mid boss is going to be attempted.
What?
I mean, it's
It
a
is.
good
It might be a
shout
little
because
bit
you don't
risky.
have Infernus back yet with his ultimate. And even if he did, he's on the other side of the map. He's over on purple.
And Singularity was just used a few seconds ago, so that's not going to be up either. This is actually a perfect read from TF2 Boomers, and there's not much that Reviver can do about it. Fine margins, but TF2 Boomers are able to thread the needle.
Just in some of those cases, it's almost playing chicken. Like, surely they don't go for the mid boss. But then you start
Yeah.
spreading out on the map, and there's no way for you to realistically contest it. But the Wraith is down, so you don't have to worry about telekinesis. Infernus is alive, but he didn't have his ultimate, and I don't know whether he should on the minimap. Again, that's another thing. Like, you might have that information that he's over on purple alone.
So I think for the first time, we see TF2 Boomers being ahead. Didn't take them too long. After the first few kills of that exchange, no walkers picked up off the back of it, but also Soul Urn now being, you know, thought of. Sure, you've got the Rejuvenator, so you feel a little bit more comfortable taking these fights, but again, you don't want to be the receiving end of a team wipe.
Yeah, I want to just kind of let these team fights be going to Revival anyway. Start to lose confidence a little bit. And it really does feel like this is going to be the case all tournament of like how much is it split push and how much do you want to group up together. Like what's the most efficient way to have people farm up on souls, because right now there is a 5k soul difference between 6k now, between the highest and lowest on TF2 Boomers.
This is a quick collapse, but TF2 Boomers have got a lot of more speedy characters available to them, so they're able to collapse in this location a little bit quicker. But you can see how Revival are putting focus on the defense of this Walker. Well, you might actually have a 6v6 fight coming instantly, but Revival are trying to take the fight before the reinforcements can arrive. Doesn't matter though. There is going to be two different fronts being taken over. Rescue Beam allowing the survival of one of the players there. But again, it's two different fronts, two different lanes. It's very spread out, but TF2 Boomers look to be breaking through the walkers.
Two big ultimates used. Unstoppable achieved when it comes to the maxed out ultimate, and a charge just mostly trying to be in and out of the fight. Not quite sure where they want to be going, but Mirrorman goes down. At least the kill is traded over on Grave. And a big response actually with the kills.
Yeah, Revival, they felt they
my
need to go in there. Wow. It's just like one ice bomb. Sealed and delivered. But you can't blame Revival for going for the fight there. I feel like that was a sense of urgency, really, in that position. But Yeah, it was a great reaction from TF2 Boomers to end up with a win here, and even with the Rejuvenator, they're just pushing through the shrines.
Yeah, I mean, they're really playing at this pace. We have been caught by this before, where we overstay our welcome by getting to shrines. I think in this case, do we knock down a patron? They're doing it as far back as possible, realistically, just to make sure they knock it down, they can get out, they can reset. There's still an urn. You are a 20k soul lead, so the urn would be on their side of the map.
Huge.
They just need to be careful, finish off getting this final walker, and this is just really good discipline from TF2 Boomers going into this fight. Also, at this point, despite it being a bit of a hefty lead now for TF2 Boomers, Goober has not died yet on the Viscous.
That is fair. That is fair. Although Viscous isn't really known for being easy to kill. Get away easy. I do enjoy playing some Viscous myself. Movement on the Abrams. Targeting that. So we can close up the distances to get into the back line easier. But yeah, sizable lead now. You can say that a 20k soul lead is quite an advantage to have.
Yeah, there's 10 ability points, which might not seem like much, but that is at least one ability fully maxed out from 1 to 3 when it comes to making some of those things stronger. Alju also caught out as well, a bit of a weird time. Goober has got the urn whilst he's doing this as well, managed to time it, and he's just Katamariing himself over. So this should be a bit of a catch-up, but it's gone from a 20k lead to a 35k lead. So this soul's uncontested. I don't think it's really going to bring that much back to the table when it comes for revival.
No, but it's step by step, right? You've got to try and find your little wins, and that was definitely one of them. Being able to proc the Grubel before picking up the urn. That's quite a nice move. It's not as easy as it looks, by the way. It's also a little mechanical play. It's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. You can do it on a lot of different characters. Personally, I don't like it, but that just makes it sound like I'm biased against it at this rate. But I've never been a fan of using like Burrow or Edge, like having the Ivy be able to pick up the urn and also use their ult. Picking up somebody else with the urn whilst you're ulting, I'm fine with.
Sure.
But yeah,
Like Kelvin Ice Path.
Yeah, you can do it with Burrow. Ice Path is another one as well. But yeah, like, if there's anything that we've seen so far is that Goober is a very good Viscous player.
Absolutely.
Gotta say for Defi as well, like he was behind on souls, but like that Lash ultimate that caught free, they all get thrown onto the ground, they all get hit by these really powerful frost grenades from River, but also an alchemical flask from Warden. Just really good like team play. Not really too complicated with what it is, but just good communication of, okay, I'm throwing them here. Right, let's just throw grenades at them. Burst down 3 people in an instant.
So as the game reaches itself into a null point, so waiting for the next major objectives to pan out, you've got to start looking at what are the win objectives here for Revival? What can they do to really get back? And honestly, it's not going to be easy. They're going to be hoping for a pick, but Grave is in trouble, being picked up himself. Oh, the paradoxical swap comes in the nick of time, and there's nowhere to run here. Early numbers advantage here for Revival. Now they can feel a little bit more comfortable taking these 6v5 fights.
Yeah, they've been catching out Grave a lot more now. I think that's probably because Silence Glyph has been picked up by Mirror Man as well. So you can't just Quantum Entanglement, you can't just teleport out of there, which is what Grave was doing very early on. Now it's just really controlling the pace of this. A couple of other objectives, and it's good work from TF2 Boomers to just be like, okay, we have all 4 of our walkers, let's just protect them. Let's not give them an in. And let's just keep building upon this lead if we can. Mid-boss isn't going to be available. Well, it's going to be available in like 10 seconds, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, right now. So now it's just maybe taking a fight and trying to get a surprising mid-boss that might catch Revival out if they're not careful. But they should be more aware of it now. Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, there are ways of guaranteeing the mid-boss, right? You've got a lot of your exposure with the ultimate. It's so scary here. Do you even have teammates around, though? I don't think you have that many. Singularity comes through. This could be a good turnaround here for Revival. We've got enough players around. Here comes the Gooble as well, knocking up players and doing a lot of damage. He's got a lot of range on him, so he's a massive Gooble. But can it do enough? Still, TF2 Boomers not dropping a play, and they've got time to heal up as well to re-enter the fight again. Salty trying to join in and try and find another pick. It's still a 1-for-1 trade, but a lot of damage is dealt onto the Wraith here. But can it be picked up still on the other front? It still seems to be favoring TF2 Boomers. They just don't have enough answers to this, not enough damage, not enough concussive solutions. And that will just mean that TF2 Boomers have got a chance to move into the mid-boss position again.
Really good picks, good work from Salty. It's just the charge that gets Alju out of position on the Wraith too. There should be another mid-boss. At this point, the Dynamo and Ivy, you have to contest it to the point that even, I think, you look at the way the TF2 Boomers are playing this, you've got the ice path to stop people from just dropping down. You've got the ultimate from Abrams being used just in case. They were expecting Revival to contest it, because if Revival didn't, that pretty much feels like it's game.
It really does. Do you even just go for the solo
well
here to start pushing? Yeah, exactly. It's not looking great. And again, I feel like that could have been a winning case scenario for Revival, right? It felt like they had more players in the fight and quicker, but they were only good for the 2 kills. Survivability from TF2 Boomers proving to be quite the challenge. Paradoxical swap is available again, right? So this could be another free kill. That's exactly what it is. Can they shut down the Paradox before it's too late? And I don't think they can. She's just out of there, even with the wall, even with the Google, everything thrown in. There's nothing Revival can do. It looks like TF2 Boomers are looking to lock this in. One by one, they'll start to get their pickings. Only the final form of Patron awaits, and that is going to be the focus. A brilliant capitalization at the late stages of this game. TF2 Boomers proving to be quite brilliant on those team fights. Sure, they're losing a play here, so it's actually starting to be a little bit more difficult than anticipated. The fact that Revival can keep on going in to get some heals proves to be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, you don't want to just fight for the sake of fighting here. Knockdown is going to be used on the Wraith. Telekinesis is going to be swapped. Paradoxical swap used in turn. And the focus here is just really good from TF2 Boomers to be taking these targets down.
Yeah, that's going to be it. Obviously, Revival had to lure them out of the Patron's position, but they'll be mowing that one down. TF2 Boomers continuing their winning streak, continuing on the upper echelon of play, and that will be forcing Revival to the lower bracket, which is proving to be quite a difficult one, quite a dangerous one. A lot of dangerous teams lying in the wait, so Revival will have an extra chance to try and stay in the tournament, but that is a very well-deserved win by the TF2 Boomers.
Yeah, sort of like I was saying right at the start of the game, right? The early game might look a little bit iffy. That's still something that we're trying to work out and stuff, but really just some good team fights that came out in the end that we were maybe risking, like when we got TF2 Boomers got flanked on the other side, for example, that things could really start to spiral out of control. But it was just good macro, really good team fights, good target prioritization to catch people out of position, really making good use out of Miraman's Paradox, but also Defi having a really, really good performance on Lash. Maybe not the iconic highest damage carry sort of character, but really started to come into his own after a pretty rough early lane-in phase, it felt like, when he was sort of a bit behind on kills.
Yeah, I think there are many bits and bobs that worked for TF2 Boomers there, whether that's a combo with McGinnis and Abrams, whether that's paradoxical swap towards the later vestiges of the game. Either way, they had a lot going for them. But let's bring Keg over here to give us his thoughts, as he was able to watch that from an outside perspective. How did that go for you, Keg?
It was always really fun to watch. I was standing... Well, I wasn't muted for the stream themselves.
Okay,
unfortunately, you were not graced, but now you can be. Here's the thing, though. I was focused on the games, yes, but I was also focused on making sure Ryan was okay. I was on standby just in case. And yes, it was a rough first early part of the game, but I'm glad things did turn out the way that I think for the most part we did kind of expect to go. I think when it came to the character composition for TF2 Boomers, it seemed like there was a much more cohesive idea in mind. I won't say that the Revival had a more reactionary composition, but again, a team with a very nice coach and a team with a very well thought out team that's played together for a while too, it really goes to show that the macro is super important, rather than just like comfort picks.
Yeah. I think one of the big facts were like big parts about it as well is just taking out Rundus on the Shiv. Like him, he was early game really annoying to deal with. Naturally, he's a Shiv. And when you have Locket as well, which has always been a good item for Shiv to be having when it comes to survivability, yeah, if you don't take him down, he's just going to be able to do so much damage and be super irritating. So I think in a lot of those fights where Rundus was the first person to be taken down, everybody else started to fall apart a little bit like a House of Cards for Revival. But this is a pretty like nascent team. You've got some like well-known people on there like Rundus, like Alju, and then some other players have been in the scene that really have put this team together. I feel that this squad can do like a lot of damage. I think it is just that bit of a honeymoon period, I suppose, with having River come onto the team and everybody feeling really good after a hefty week of practice. It just sort of felt like we weren't. TF2 Boomers weren't flustered at all when it comes to like being behind or losing team fights early.
It's okay. You can take a little credit.
Yeah, it's impossible to not be biased, right? It's just...
Oh, to take any credit.
No, don't take credit when they lose. If they lose.
No. When they win, though, it's all you. That's
all you.
Totally allowed. Yeah, completely understandable. But yeah, where does this leave us, Kay? Do we have a scoreboard?
Yeah, so I would love to go to the bracket and see what's happening next. We do have TF2 Boomers, of course. They beat out Revival. That puts them into the semis. That is the first game to do so. There is one game on the board that I would love to watch. I don't believe it started up yet. I think it's going to be our next one. We'll have to wait for production to tell us. But Hydra Nation versus Llama Lords should be probably the grand finals matchup outside of TF2 Boomers. Ryan, what do you think?
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Llama Lords team, we've already seen them look really good against Patron Pulverizers, which are another really good squad. I think them versus Merc Takes is actually going to be a bit of a sleeper pick, with Merc Takes actually having the lead against Hydra Nation pretty early on in that map. But Hydra Nation having enough about them to actually just pull it back in the end. And then the winner of that playing up against Revival, like really interesting, strong side of the bracket to be seen on. So yeah, like Hydra Nation and Llama Lords is always going to be good. Bomb barrels always tend to give Hydra Nation a good game here or there, but it's still very much an uphill task. Hydra Nation, naturally one of the strongest teams in the world, definitely the strongest team in North America, but we have seen them maybe pushed more than they would have liked to have been so far. And it's a new patch, so really anything can happen.
New patch, new me. Now, I was wrong. We won't be watching that matchup next. We'll be having Alchemical versus Melee Creep. So we will be dipping down into the lower bracket. We've been hyping it up all tournament so far, right, Pav? So this is going to be quite literally do or die. It's still a best of one. We've seen a lot of really good teams falter down here early on. There's not going to be any slack to cut.
No, there really isn't. It's gonna be a close one. Like you said, best of one's lower bracket. I think more than ever we'll be seeing a hesitancy. I think that's one of the things that we need to be looking at here, because you don't really want to be making mistakes when you're on that crunch time moment. So I want to see if that's actually the case, because if you are going to be too hesitant, that might end up biting you. So you don't really want to fall under that trend. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how that pans out. But you're right, we were hyping that lower bracket, so we get to see it finally firsthand, so I can't wait.
That's right. There's going to be a lot of bloodshed in the lower bracket, but we yearn for blood and we crave it so much. But of course, we must satiate ourselves for just a few minutes. We do have to get the lobby set up for this next match. So don't go anywhere. We have a small break. You can also satiate, and we'll see you soon.